it doesn't take much to support a podcast that you like. And it's a good way to stay off drugs, You just go to patreon.com/evacstation. For only $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive shows, early releases, and you can even request future films for future episodes. Look at me. Now look at you. Now look back at me. That lizard on your shoulder isn't real. Of course not. It isn't Jub Jub. What's real is you going to patreon.com/evacstation right now. I hope to see you there.
Do you think podcasters dream? I'm Detective Waseska, and I'm joined by Lieutenant Metters, and this is the After Credits Podcast.
Fucking hate you. Oh god, that was really good. Damn it. That's what I get for not reading the script ahead of time.
If you want to follow this show on social media, that's Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. We also are on various platforms of choice. You can go to Patreon, you can go to YouTube, Peepa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. Not Drug Addict, Podcast Addict. There you go. To find us on all those different platforms. And if you want to reach out to us directly, not to request email or ransom, not to request drugs or ransom, but to email us questions about films or just life in general. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is 25% of the weight uncut. I'm sorry. Excuse me. That's evacstation@gmail.com.
Indeed. I want to get to that here in a little bit, but before we do, we have a quick little segment we like to call What You Watching? A little segment where we go back on the past week and talk about what we've been doing, watching, what have you. Ryan, what have you been watching?
Well, this past week was a bit of a rough one for me because I was actually battling a sinus infection, so I didn't get to watch a whole bunch of stuff. But it left me to play a game that I bought a little while ago off a recommendation. It was $10 at GameStop, and I think it's fantastic. It's Titanfall 2. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. I've heard it's the better of the two, and it's got a good campaign to it. Is that all true?
Yes. I originally heard of the original Titanfall, which made its bones off of the multiplayer engine. I mean, it's a standard FPS with like some fun, crazy movement engines and things like that. Fun fact: Apex Legends is actually built off of the engine, the physics engine that's used in Titanfall.
I was like, isn't that the Source engine?
Yeah, the Source engine. But the big criticism about the original Titanfall was that there was no fucking story to it. So Titanfall 2 said, all right, we're going to take what you said and fucking go 18,000 yards with it. So the storyline in and of itself is fantastic. The solo player missions are amazing. There is a series of stages where you get to play with time control, and it's not like Sands of Time control where like, oh, you see these people and they're about to kill you, and so you use a charge and you rewind time. No, fuck all that. That's plebeian. It's where you're running around and you see an obstacle that you can't get past. Like you're in the ruins of this abandoned science research station, and there's just like fire and everything, and you can't get past it, and you hit a button and you go back to the time when it was all new, and you cross the bridge. And then you switch back to go back to your own timeline. And you can do that at the drop of a dime. While also fighting people and, like, shooting them. And it's goofy. And then you jump into a big-ass mech and you fight other mechs for the fuck of it. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It's, like, anybody could probably find it at GameStop for, like, $10. It is well worth the investment.
Yep, I think you can get it for pretty cheap now because it didn't sell super well, but that's EA's problem for releasing it the same week as Battlefield and Call of Duty, and fucking EA, you're a bunch of idiots. Anyway, yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. Heard a lot of good things about it, so I'm definitely wanting to check that one out. Ryan, I have had a week.
Have you?
Yep, so I have no update for Bloodborne. Bergen North is kicking my ass right now, so I took a little bit of a break. Because Ryan, I've been falling behind on my Smash Bros. Game a little bit because a stage builder came out when Joker, the update for that came out, and I gotta say, this stage builder is a lot more fun than I originally gave it credit for. It took a little bit of learning curve, but I have currently made. I have a list here, and let me count them out real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've made 11 stages.
Okay. Well, please, pray tell us about some of these stages.
Well, okay, so 2 of them are based on a Persona 5 arena and a Persona 5 dungeon and a Persona 5 boss fight. It's the first boss in the first castle you fight or go through, and the design's very simplistic. Obviously, I can't do the fine details like the background painting or anything, but the idea is very simple. Just a couple platforms, flat stage. For the boss fight, I actually tried to make a semblance of the boss in the background of the stage, and then have him attack the stage with like a giant fork of some kind, and it actually is something you can jump on and interact with. It's kind of cool. I wish it did damage when it hit the ground, though. I wish it did damage, but I can only do so much. I did another stage inspired by Dark Souls. I have another one in the works. But the one I did. So you remember Dark Souls 1? The first major boss you fight is the gargoyle rooftop fight.
I would argue the first major fight you fight is the Taurus demon.
Well, I mean the first one to get a bill, I should say.
That's fair.
Yep. I guess you could do Quelaag first if you really want to, speedrun the game, but I mean, for the rest of us, it was the gargoyle fight. And so I thought, let's make a rooftop fight, have some winds going on, have a few different platforms. I couldn't really incorporate the gargoyles into it much because there's like a limit to the stage you can do, and trying to animate like things is really weird and difficult. But no, I got something like a gargoyle in the background. It looks kind of cool. It's a cheap looking stage. I want to update it a bit, but one stage I've been working on that I've updated a lot is something I've called Zelda's Sacred Realm, or just Sacred Realm, I guess. So it's inspired by a mod from the Smash Bros. Brawl game I showed you a while back, where it like added stages and characters and shit. So it's basically like Battlefield, but 3 different Battlefield maps in one map. And they each have like a different like theme from Zelda's like goddesses involved. It looks pretty cool. I think it turned out really good. I played it with some buddies the other week, and I've updated it since to be a little bit better. Because I realized that of the 3 different Battlefield sections, the top one had like the high ground advantage, where if you're good with projectiles, you can fuck up anyone on the bottom. So I added some platforms, gave them some distance, made it a little harder for that platform to be like an over-the-top advantage.
Oh my god, you are going all in on this shit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even done yet. So I've made, after those, I made some Sonic-themed stages, because I thought about what stages I wanted to make. And I thought, Sonic stages actually do really well for Smash Bros. Because they're already platforming stages. You just pick the parts that best represent that map or that stage or whatever, and then just turn it into a smaller arena kind of thing. So I've made Lava Reef Zone, which is just a few platforms floating on lava, with a couple platforms in the air to jump on for like more straight-up fights. There's Eggman Land, which is just a couple of metal beams you fight across with a giant Eggman statue in the background, which I thought was kind of cool. I made something that looks like Chemical Plant Zone, which is a great map from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It needs work, but the fightable part of the stage is really good. The background, it needs some cleaning up. It's a really hard map to piece together because of how the stage works, how the stage builder works. It's weird. I have also made Mushroom Hill Zone from Sonic & Knuckles, which is really good. I even updated... So there was a design I saw online that's already been made, but I kind of copied it and then updated it a little bit, because in the map of the game, or from the game, the mushrooms you can bounce off of, so I added springs to the mushrooms, so now there's a bit more functionality to it. And then I have started Pumpkin Hill from Sonic Adventure 2 and Casino Night Zone from one of the old Sonic games. There's like a bunch of different casino levels. It could be any of them, honestly.
Oh my god, Pumpkin Hill, please!
The only bad part about Pumpkin Hill is the theme song's not there. If that was there, that stage would be fucking the best one. It'd be the best one.
Oh my god, like, it just comes back to me like damn near clear as day. I ain't gonna let it get to me. I
can feel it in my feet.
God damn! Oh, now I need to hear Pumpkin Hill. Damn it, Aaron. Okay, no. I'm gonna cue that up so I can listen to it as soon as we're done fucking doing this podcast.
You've taken my heart, Ryan. I'm not the only one here who's obsessed with stupid Sonic bullshit.
Fuck, dude, Pumpkin Hill was the shits.
It really was. When we see each other over the summer and then over again for the wedding, I'll have to show you this shit, man. It's been a lot of fun putting this together.
Yes. All right. It'll be good because I haven't played my Switch like anywhere near enough. So yeah.
And here's the thing too. I have a list, Ryan. I have so many more stages I want to make. It's not even close to done. But I digress, though, because we are now at 11 minutes. Let's jump into this movie. If you want to download these stages, please send me a message. I'll try to make codes available on Twitter so you can download them. I do believe you have to have Nintendo. That
would be some fun ass listener interaction. That would be some fun ass listener interaction.
It would be. And if you've made a good stage, go ahead and send that on our social media platform. I'd love to check them out, and I'd even showcase them on the show at some point if I liked them enough. I actually downloaded some that people have made based off old Smash Bros. Stages, like from 64 that weren't in the new game, that actually played really well. So, yeah. Hit me up, guys.
Do it, guys. Do it.
But, on to the film of the week. The Rage in the Cage continues with 2009's Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Also, the longest title we have done so far. Directed by Werner Herzog, and written by William M. Finkelstein. I like doing it either way. The film has grossed a total of $10,589,000 worldwide, with a limited release, just to keep in mind, which is about half of what it cost. Eesh.
Shit, whoops!
Our cast includes Denzel Whitaker, Fairuza Balk, Exhibit, Val Kilmer, Eva Mendes, and one drugged-up Nicolas Cage.
A pre-fun fact, Nicolas Cage actually, despite popular belief, Nicolas Cage actually did this movie completely dry. He was not drunk, he was not on drugs or anything. It was just completely a state of mind and acting that he put into it.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I mean, I doubted it until I heard it come out of his mouth. I was like, you bullshitting. Come on now. But no, apparently he did.
People doubt him, but he actually is pretty good at his craft. In a weird, unique way, but still good. There are some awards to this movie, of course. We have the Dublin Film Critics Special Jury Prize. We have a Venice Film Festival Special Award for the director himself. And a Toronto Film Critics Award for Nick Cage as Best Actor. That's fair. Mm-hmm. Those are all very fair.
They are very fair. They are very fair. Alright, so I believe I got some fun facts for you guys. Only 2 of them this time. The first one's a bit of a long one. In a June 2008 interview with The Guardian, Abel Ferreira, director and co-writer of the original Bad Lieutenant, which came out in 1992, said, "Finding out his movie was being remade was a horrible feeling, quote unquote, like when you got robbed. And those involved in the remake should all die in hell." He also wondered how Cage can even have the nerve to play Harvey Keitel, and called screenwriter Finkelstein an idiot. Herzog responded that he had never seen the original and had never heard of Ferrara, therefore does not consider this movie a remake. Producers seem to have added Bad Lieutenant to the title in order to get a better marketing. Whether a remake, reimagining, or follow-up, or none of the aforementioned, both movies are clearly connected by basic premise and plot. And now I really, really, really want to see the Harvey Keitel one, because
I'm very curious
that's the
too.
dude.
Very curious.
Harvey Keitel is the fucking guy, man. I want to check that out. Last but not least, Nicolas Cage claims that he was, like I mentioned before, never under the influence of anything throughout the filming. In contrast to Leaving Las Vegas, 1995, which we just recorded,
Cagliostro!
In which he genuinely got drunk to play an alcoholic. In this, he actually snorted baby powder for the cocaine scenes, along with a various type of saccharin, like it was pretty much like sweetener, in order to do it. He actually detailed an instance where he would carry around a small vial, and as a part of a psych-up process to kind of get a scene, he would snort something, and everybody was kind of getting freaked out because Nicolas Cage was snorting something on set before he did his thing. And the director himself came up to him and said, what's in that vial? And of course, he's so concentrated and so in the mindset of the lieutenant that he says, it's Coke! Get off my set! Get out of New Orleans! This is my city! And they went on ahead and shot the scene. So, yeah.
You know, it takes a very competent director to be able to rein in Nicolas Cage's insanity. and I think Herzog did a fantastic job doing that.
I think so too, but I also think that Cage wanted to kind of challenge him in regards to
of course.
Like I like he had reviewed some of the director's earlier work and like reviewed the materials that they were using kind of as inspiration for it. Not the Harvey Keitel film, unfortunately, but he takes a good look at it, and he kind of wanted to press the envelope. Like, I remember him saying he wanted to do like the California version of the character. It was just kind of fucking out there and really like on the wire. And I think he did it. I think he pressed the envelope. But yeah. Shouts out to the director that was actually able to kind of harness that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Quick initial thoughts before we jump in. So I'd heard about this upon release. So when I did my usual film critic, Movie Bob, for those who want to follow him, saying praises of the film when it came out, and it's something I've actually wanted to see for a long time. I just have never gotten around to it. And I think that this will make a great companion piece to our Drunk Cage film we just recorded a little bit ago. Because it's another one that tackles addiction, but in a very different, very Gregory House kind of way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like, so I don't know how to feel about this movie. I think this one has a tighter plot and a tighter premise than Leaving Las Vegas that we did a little while ago. I think it tackles similar subject matter, but I don't think it delves as deep into it as Leaving Las Vegas. I enjoyed it, but I think it's a little shallower than the work, and the ending kind of leaves a bit to be desired for me personally. Although generally when we do our discussion, I leave with a deeper fucking like introspection into the movie that we were talking about. So I might walk out loving this fucking piece. As of right now, initially it leaves a little bit to be desired, but it was still a very interesting film.
I cannot wait to get to it because I actually did a little bit of reading to kind of get a better grasp on the ending.
Yes,
I think
all right.
You're gonna like what I found.
You're gonna pull me in. You're gonna pull me in.
I
see you.
Let's jump in. After Hurricane Katrina, Terrence does a dumb thing and severely injures his back. You know, saving convicts and flooding water. It's fine.
Man.
Now,
I need to talk about that part. I'm sorry, keep going.
Now, like the late Gregory House, he gets a Vicodin prescription, which spins into an out-of-control drug addiction where he chases new highs to ease his pain, including stealing from the property room and holding up punks at a local nightclub to take whatever drugs they have on them, and then fucking their girlfriends in front of the men. Yeah, little out of control. 6 months later, the main thrust of the plot is Terrence is promoted to lieutenant, and they have a big new case to solve. A family of 5 illegal immigrants are executed, and he has to find out who did it. Who done it? 2 witnesses they arrest are for less than legal reasons are interrogated and led them to to look for a man named Big Fate, Godshaw, who wants to use his ill-gotten gains to rebuild the waterfront of New Orleans. That's not a bad goal.
Yo, dog.
Bad goal.
I heard you liked Exhibit in your random movies, so we put Exhibit in this fucking movie and named him Big Fate so that you can have more Exhibit in your Bad Lieutenant.
Meanwhile, Terrence is in trouble with his bookie for some bad bets, and his girlfriend, another prostitute named Frankie, deals with a well-connected customer who tries to weasel out of paying her. Dealing with both these people in less than ideal ways leads other gangsters confronting Terrence about, money and shit. Money he gets in making a deal with Big Fate for a big pile of cash. And in his efforts to get this money from Big Fate, he gets the evidence he needs to plant and lock up Big Fate for the murder of the family that he had ordered dead. The film ends with Terrence seemingly having been gotten sober, but falling back into his habit shortly after making captain. He meets the man whose life he saved at the beginning of the film, and the two contemplate their future in an aquarium. Asking a fish dream, quite a trip indeed.
I was so mad at the ending. I was so upset.
Do you want to jump into that right away?
Fuck, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just have to ask. So,
okay.
So, the beginning of the movie starts out with Hurricane Katrina just hit, which is really interesting, and they're in the police precinct. They realize, hey, there's probably a prisoner still down in the hold. Let's go see if there's one of them. And of course, there's this dude who's like fucking up to his head in water. And they start out being really assholes, him and the other cop, Val Kilmer. And they're making bets on like, okay, in an hour, the thing will be up to his nose, and I say, nah, we'll come back in the morning. The autopsy will show that nothing actually happened until 5. And I'm like, holy shit, wait, Val Kilmer's just like automatically consigned this dude to death. Like, he's just like, no, we're just gonna let him die, and just go ahead and do the thing. And then the convict starts praying. And that causes Nicolas Cage to jump into the water. And then we skip ahead where apparently in doing that, he injured his back and caused the Vicodin prescription, which inevitably leads him into the other like hardcore drugs that he uses to balance out his pain and do his thing. So for all of the movie, I was watching it like the rest of like the goings on of the movie were interesting to me, but the big thing that really kept me watching it was, what was it about this particular prisoner, or what was it about his praying that made him want to save him? I needed that question answered. And it wasn't fucking answered. It was not answered for me.
So, that doesn't get answered. It's really weird, because I also have to ask, why did he save him in the way he did? Like, was there no other way to get down to that first floor at all? Like, no ropes, no stairs, nothing they could use?
I'm sure there was a stairs there, but he's just like, you know what? There's already water there. I'm just going to jump in. But I'm like, how the fuck did he get injured? Like, jumping into a pool of water doesn't instantly fuck up your back. How did he get injured?
If the water was still shallow enough where he could hit the ground and he didn't land properly, he probably still could have hurt his back pretty bad.
Uh,
I'll say this much: it was not
the only trouble that I have with that is the fact that the guy was like actively swimming in the water, and he's like, "Yo, like the water's gonna cover my head fucking soon. I need your help." But he was like actively swimming in his fucking cell, so it was deep enough for a person to swim in.
Logistically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think there's other ways they could have had him injured, for sure. But I don't know. It's weird that they jump... that jump cut was weird when it goes from him jumping in the water and trying to save the guy to, oh, hey, you're at the hospital and you have a back injury. It's like, that sort of just seems kind of like really quick. Like, I wish I could have seen the injury take place. So that way I could have at least seen how it happened.
It was so quick that I instantly assumed that the method in which he got injured and the reason why he jumped was going to be integral to the story. That like it was so quick that I knew we were coming back to it. I knew that was going to be a big part of the story, so we're going to come back to it. And then they never did. And I was
And what's weird is there's another cut that I remember, and I actually wrote it down because it seemed weird to me. So when he's holding the fish in that one first house he goes to, where the murders took place, he's just holding the fish up for a minute and looking at it. But if you're paying attention, there is a cut in that sequence, and he just continues looking at the fish after that cut. Like, it goes from one shot of him looking at it to another shot, and then just the scene just stops a little afterward. I'm like, why was there a cut here? Were they trying to signify time passing? Was it bad editing? What happened here?
Really?
Yeah, it was...
That's very
like if it was like in an action scene or if they're going to a different location, it makes perfect sense. But for just a random cut between one shot of him looking at it to another shot of him looking at it in the same position, I just didn't understand what was going on with that.
You know what? I mean, there are a couple of shots where McDonough has just lost his fucking mind, and there are parts of him that are just hilarious. So I feel like the fish one was originally just like kind of like him staring into the rabbit hole, like just like at the beginning of like him like kind of starting to lose his mind, because that like the fish scene that you're mentioning is essentially when they come across a crime scene that they spend the majority of the movie trying to solve. And at that point in the movie, in the beginning of the movie, he pretty much has a good handle on it. Like he's doing hardcore drugs. Yes, he's doing the Vicodin. Yes, he's stealing shit from the property locker. But like you're led to believe that like towards the beginning of the movie, like he's got a good handle on it, and it's only when like the hundreds of plates that he's spinning start falling throughout the course of the movie, that's when shit just starts going fucking nuts. But I think like him looking at the fish kind of signifies that like the beginning of that. So yeah, because it's after he looks at the fish. He goes back to the precinct, and then the guy's like, "Oh, hey, I can't get you any more shit from the property locker, and you're gonna have to find a new source," and da 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 da, and that's where like shit starts going downhill.
So that,
but yeah, I think that's kind of like him staring down the.
So then maybe the cut that I'm referring to then might actually be a jump in time, because I know that, and I'm speaking from experience in terms of what I've seen in media. I have no experience with drugs, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I don't know how you want to put that. But so in the game Metal Gear, for example, you smoke cigarettes, quote unquote, cigarettes. It could also be marijuana. There have been debates on it. But he smokes to pass time. And the same thing happens in Deadly Premonition, where if you want to pass time in the game, just light up a cigarette and watch time fly by. So maybe the fact he's so high out of his mind, time is just kind of, he's losing time. And so he has no idea what's happened in the space between looking at the fish at the beginning and walking away from it. And so there's just this big gap in time he can't remember.
It's quite possible that there's actually a lot of validity in that theory, because you see that happen a couple of times where like he'll just stop and stare at something for a while. And you have no idea how much fucking time just passed, but for the viewer, like, a lot of time has passed because he's just staring there looking at a fucking lizard or at a breakdancing person.
His soul, like, it's still dancing.
What is happening? His soul is still dancing. We're gonna save that.
Yep.
We're gonna save that because that shit had me rolling. But yes, I will say, I think there is I think there is validity in what you're saying. With that being a possible passing of time. It's really interesting that, like, it might be like a brief little aside for the people who notice cuts, because if there was a cut there, then it was really, really fucking smooth, because I missed it. I straight missed it. But yeah, if you notice the cut there, yeah, I could definitely see that being kind of like a subtle nod from the filmmaker to, like, the more attentive audience that, like, hey guys, this is going to be a thing. Him staring at animals is going to be a thing, so just sit tight.
So speaking of animals, the film goes into the perspective. So let me roll back. There's a scene where he goes to speak to some patrol officers in regards to a speeding ticket, and after the conversation happens, the camera then goes to the perspective of a nearby alligator watching these cops, like, just do whatever they're doing. Was that part of a hallucination? Or was that, if not, was there a purpose to that shot? I'm trying to figure that out.
I have no fucking idea. I think that was the first, like, shot that I was, like, really shocked at, because it was just like, is that a real fucking gator? Like, so I think it's prudent to say that the beginning of the scene is that they're rolling up on a vehicle accident where, like, you're led to believe that an SUV hit a gator in the middle of the highway and flipped and had a big ass accident.
Dude, I could believe that.
Yeah, so you come across, like, this dead alligator. And then you pan up and you see, like, a flipped car, and the state troopers are there, and then, you know, McDonough comes out and he's going to talk to the lieutenant in charge there. And that's how the scene starts. And then it goes to the point of view of another nearby alligator that's off the road just looking at it. And my first thought was, is that a real fucking alligator?
I think it was. I think I read somewhere that Herzog actually did record footage, like, just like random wildlife footage and other B-roll stuff to add to the film like that.
It 100% was. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what cameraman was fucking bonkers enough to get this close to a real live alligator, strap a fucking GoPro on it, and was just having a ball. I couldn't believe that they actually did it. It's the first, like, real animal POV shot in the movie. And so, as opposed to what it represents, I actually have no idea. I honestly have no fucking idea what they were trying to say.
I have a wild ballpark theory here.
Please do. Come at me.
What if it's the soul of the gator?
What
if it's the soul of the dead gator from the road?
You know what? It could be. It just could be.
He just turns around and is like, oh no, that gator's soul, it's still dancing.
You're like, man, I just fucking died. That was crazy. Let me just crawl on off then. Fuck it. I'm like, what the
He's like, later, gator.
What is happening? Later, gator. Get out. Nah, sir. I'm sorry.
Going back to that moment, though. So, I kind of looked at that. So, when the scene showed up, Amanda was still watching the movie with me. And I pointed that out. I'm like, you know, we see deer accidents here all the time in the Midwest because deer are everywhere. I've never thought about it, but gator accidents in Florida and other, like, coastal regions down south, that has to happen all the fucking time, right?
I could see that. Yeah.
And I feel like gators would be worse for you, because a deer, they impact the upper part of you. You're not going to flip over a deer, probably. It's a lot of damage, sure, but, I mean, it's not going to...
You're just going to hit it, and that's going to be the thing.
But a gator, though, it's like a big rock, and those scales are fucking tough. That's going to fuck up your car way worse than a deer ever would, right?
It's like a fucking moving, like, big-ass speed bump. It's just gonna throw your entire undercarriage in disarray.
Like, if there's anyone out there who suffered from an alligator accident and survived, please let me know in the comments. I want to know, like, how bad that gets, because...
and survived.
I mean, it looked like the people in this one died, so...
I know. I just the way you threw it in there was just like, fuck. All right.
Okay.
Also, so the way you worded that, like, you know, at this point, Amanda was still watching with me. Did she give up on the movie at some point?
So I started this movie, and she even told me up front that she was not going to be fully attentive for this one because she was going to work on other stuff, but she was there for probably the first half of it, give or take. She did sit all the way through the other one, Leaving Las Vegas. I think that might have been, like, why she didn't want to sit all the way through this one. And I totally respect that.
That's fair. It was rough.
Yeah. Okay. So, the alligator might be hallucination. We don't know. There's no evidence to prove one way or the other. The lizards, on the other hand, those are 100% fucking hallucinations. So with that in mind... what the hell do they mean, if anything?
I don't know. I still don't know. I will say, as a previous owner of one of those lizards, the first time we see them, like, they're doing a stakeout. They're looking up Exhibit's character and the people that they suspect for the execution murders. And he looks, and there are two lizards, like, there's, like, what the fuck is this iguana doing there? And they're like, what do you mean? And they're like, there's an iguana there on the table. He's like, there's no iguana. He says, what the fuck do you call that? And he hits the pair of lizards there. Only one of them is an iguana. The other,
bearded dragon, right?
The yellow one is a bearded dragon, which I used to be the owner of one of those, which are they're super cool. But yeah, those lizards were more than likely not the fuck there. And I don't know what they mean. I think it's just a really interesting artistic expression of, like, him losing his shit, like, slowly over the course of the movie. I'm sure there's a deeper artistic meaning. I just don't know it, honestly. I don't know.
I'm trying to look up possible meanings for it, because I'm just trying to think of what lizards could represent, or what iguanas specifically could represent in in the narrative. Because I mean, it shows up again later on, and it shows up during the shootout scene in Big Fate's house, if I'm remembering right?
Yeah,
the dancing soul. So I'm trying to think of what that could be, and it looks like, based on what I'm seeing here, it could be a symbolism of gratitude. It could be a symbolism of patience, and I'm not seeing how that plays into this at all.
I mean, they were in the midst of a stakeout, which requires extreme patience, but I don't know. I feel like I'm reaching on that one. I honestly have no idea. Outside of the fact that McDonough's just fucking insane because he's on, like, about 8 different drugs at this point, and his world is collapsing around him.
Yeah, things unravel really quick and then kind of ravel back together really fast. It's kind of weird. Speaking of hallucinations, do we want to do the dancing soul now, or do we want to come back to that?
I mean, we can. I don't have too much to say on it, except that it was fucking hilarious.
Like, so I remember reading the line, shoot him, his soul's still dancing. And I think I read it, like, on a quote or something for, like, something I was going to try to do for trivia, but I obviously couldn't figure out how to put it together well. So I'm like, I wonder how that plays into this. And so when we actually get around to seeing it, I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my god, this is so goddamn ridiculous. What the fuck am I watching?
Oh, I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Because, I mean, like, it bears saying that McDonough and the rest of the people are smoking crack at the time. So, he's high out of his fucking mind. And, of course, there was just a shootout. And, like, the guy that was trying to bilk McDonough for, like, $50,000 is, like, just got shot by some skillful manipulation on McDonough's part. But he's like, shoot him again. And he's like, why? He's like, because his soul's still dancing. And I'm like, okay, so he's obviously fucking high. But then as the camera keeps panning, you see a younger dude in what clearly looks like a mohawk, but the same clothes as the older guy, fucking breakdancing to music that's playing, like, in the background. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's literally seeing his soul dance right now. And you just keep cutting back to McDonough's, like, face where it's just, like, looking at this dude dancing. And I'm like,
I'd love to live in that guy's head for, like, 5 minutes just to see what the world looks like in his twisted, depraved way. It's just so fucking weird.
It was ridiculous. And I will say, as somebody who's done acid, I've never seen a soul dance, but you do get to see some interesting shit. And I don't think I've ever seen anything that, like, ridiculous. I think some of the most vivid things that I've seen was walking along the shoreline. And seeing, like, the skyline of Chicago, and, like, there were some buildings under construction, and there was a big yellow crane, and I could swear that a dragon had like perched upon one of the buildings. I was just like,
well, I
oh,
remember
shit!
the story about 4th of July that Nicole told us about, where you thought you were casting spells or some shit.
Wait, which one? Oh, well, shit, there were fireworks, man. I mean, like, I had Roman candles in my hand. You think I'm not, like, fucking magic missile up in this bit? Drugs are bad, guys. Don't do drugs. Still, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. But, yeah, no. The shit you see is interesting.
I was going to add, too, that the soul dancing line, just a quick aside before we move on, is a reference to one of Herzog's other films. I don't remember which one, but I did read it on IMDb, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. That's a cute little reference there.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
All right, time for a hot button question. Hot button. Here we go. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the police in this film, and or police in general?
So what do you think about the police, Ryan? Jesus Christ.
Throwing you on a curveball here.
Fuck. Oh, Jesus.
Clearly, in this film at the very least, the police are fucking unprofessional shit.
Oh, they're definitely on some unprofessional shit. Fuck me. All right. If what I say on this podcast comes back to bite me in the ass,
if it sounds really bad, I'll edit it out.
Thanks. In a nutshell, I think that the role of police in our society is an inherently dangerous one with a lot of risk to, like, personal well-being and what have you. That being said, the impetus to bend the law and the power behind the role in general leads people to unscrupulous means. I think that the risk inherent in the position leads a lot of people to take liberties that they shouldn't. I think there are unscrupulous people that are really, really good at their job, but they do it simply because of the power that it affords them. And that they are kind of able to do whatever the fuck they want because of the badge, as long as they show some results in regards to this idea of public safety. I don't think all cops are bad. I think there are far too many bad cops that do whatever the fuck they want and that pursue their own agendas in the name of like some self-imposed greater good. And I think that the idea of the police as a fraternity is inherently a really poisonous idea, because while you need to protect your brothers in blue that are also out there risking their lives along the line for you, there also needs to be accountability for the bad ones that are fucking up the good name of the police. I think the police are an inherently noble idea, and I think there have been far too many horrible ones without the consequence of their actions to keep up the idea of the nobility of police.
I will add
at
to
this
that
point.
because I like what you're saying there. I will add to that I'm just extrapolating from what you're saying. So if I'm reading it wrong, please correct me. But when you say that there are too many bad police out there, I don't think you're necessarily saying it's a large percentage. I think your logic, and I think this is how I'm reading it, is that any bad cops out there is too many, in my opinion. Even if it's just like 10% of the millions of cops out there, even 10% of them is still bad. Even 5% of them being corrupted in some way is still bad. There shouldn't be any corrupt cops because their goal is to uphold the law. Their role is to uphold the law. And even doing anything less than that shouldn't be a cop.
I agree with that. But that also goes to my idea of the police as a fraternity, because when good cops stick their neck out to protect bad cops, it makes all cops look bad. That's kind of the end of the discussion. If 10 cops get together to hide one bad cop, that's 10 bad cops, in my opinion. Because you should get rid of the one bad cop and let the other 9 do their fucking jobs. And maybe you'll get to some semblance of people looking at you like you're actually there to uphold the law, than as opposed to you're there to look out for your guy who's doing shady shit and nobody wants to mention it.
I do want to say, so there are 2 podcasts I listen to that relate to this very heavily. One of them is the podcast known as Serial. It's actually surprisingly popular. I didn't realize how big it was until I started getting into it. Season 3 covers the criminal justice system specifically within Ohio, specifically within, I don't remember which county it is, but it's a specific county in Ohio, and the various big problems that they have with just the various court systems, the law, the minorities being oppressed and whatnot there in Ohio. And then there's another podcast to do called Small Town Dicks, which is 2 detectives working with, talking with 2 different podcasters, telling their various stories they've gone through. And in one show, you see the absolute nadir, the absolute worst of what the criminal justice system can do. Just in podcast form. I'm sure there's even worse than that, but just of what I've seen, it is some of the worst I've seen. In Serial, they talk about how one African-American gentleman traveling through the county, he doesn't even live in the county, was arrested for a false drug charge, and instead of being put into a prison cell for holding, the cops that picked him up threw him into a watershed behind their law offices or their police station, and basically kidnapped him for a total of a whole weekend. No food, no water, nothing, and they just treated him like shit. It was horrible. He tried to sue, and the county can't even give him money for it because the county's broke for all the other lawsuits they had to fucking deal with. Meanwhile, on a more positive note, you hear the two detectives in Small Town Dicks talk about all the different crimes they've gone out of the way to help, including various corrupt cops who they had to who led investigations against for raping various people around small towns, and doing a damn good job putting them behind bars and getting them off the streets because they should not be out there. So it's just very interesting to hear two different sides of the story. And if anyone is interested in that stuff, I highly recommend hearing these stories because they shed light on both sides of the issue that are very much worth talking about. I know it has nothing to do with this particular film directly, but when we talk about corrupt cops, which is a large part of this film, that is something definitely worth looking into, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not gonna, and I mean, this, it holds particular weight for me as a black male as well. And I personally haven't had any run-ins with law enforcement that have gone like crazy, but the fact that my heart rate spikes every time I see a police car is indicative about something in our society, and that's all I'll say about that. But I'm not going to be the one that sits here and tells you that every cop is bad. I'm absolutely not going to be that. I know that there are bad people in our society, and I know that the police and the statute of the law is meant there to uphold innocent people, to keep innocent people free, and to prosecute the ones that are poisoning our society. I'm down with that. I'm 100% down with that in theory. In the application of it, however, you have less than scrupulous people who see that system in place and do everything to take advantage of it. And because it's not a perfect system, there are a lot of ways to take advantage of it. There are smart people in that system that make it their job to get over on every single person that they can. And unfortunately, when the system like fucking bends over backwards to kind of keep prosecution from some of those bad apples because of the horrible press it will put on the system in general, it puts distrust on the entire system. And it leads to the poisoning of a system that's ideal, that's goal, is ultimately noble. But because of the actions of key bad individuals and of the system to try and protect key individuals, the whole thing gets corrupted just by association. And vast overhauls are called for in order to get a semblance of public trust back in that organization.
No, I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
I just like to pimp out those two podcasts when I can because they're definitely very stark tellings of that two-sided coin we're talking about here, and it's just a very interesting discussion to have. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot or anything. I just know that it's an issue.
You are swinging today. I didn't have. I've never had to actually like put that into words. I thank you for asking me to go there. See, that's what I love about this podcast. Every now and again, like, we get to talk about fun, geeky shit that both of us love, and that's always a great time. But every now and then, you ask me some shit that I really have to think about and really have to put down, like in like a solid stance. And it makes me solidify that like on a personal level, and I appreciate that.
And I like to think that films and media in general open a window for you to do that. And I think that's why I think that's why putting these conversations, these questions together from these films is kind of easy for me because it's like it gives me like little like holding points. It's like rock climbing a little bit. Each one of these questions is like a different grip on this wall of a movie, and I'm just kind of climbing to the top to see where this conversation goes. It's really interesting to see where it leads. So, okay. So I think to round that back out, the police in this film are a great representation of the police in real life. So let's move on. Let's see. Next one. Frankie has a character arc. The prostitute, she has a character arc in this a little bit, where she actually joins AA and sobers out and actually kind of changes by the end. It's kind of it's not what I expected from her character. I liked it a lot. I don't know. What do you think? Was it a good character arc? Do you think it was earned? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it completely surprised the fuck out of me. Like, I was happy with it. I completely did not see it coming, but at the same time, it makes sense. You know, like we're kind of dragged along McDonough's perspective, and like we're following him as the various hundreds of plates that he's spinning keep falling, and we see him trying to catch them as they fall in haphazard fashion. And one of those things is like, well, these mobsters are threatening Frankie unless McDonough gives him $50,000. Well, I have to stash her somewhere. I can't put her in my house because I don't want them to know where I live. I'm gonna put them in my dad's house. My dad, who is a recovering fucking alcoholic, and his wife, who on the low is drinking beer all the fucking time and possibly doing harder shit. Yeah, I'm gonna stash her here. And the last thing, and of course, like every time you see McDonough and Frankie together, Frankie's like, do you have something for me? And like, I've got some Coke, I've got some this, I've got some that. And they're always like in it together. But him bringing her to his dad's house is like the last thing I expected was for her to kind of hit recovery, because like you see his dad saying, you know, like at the beginning, like I can't have her here, like honestly, I'm in no type of shape to take somebody on. You know, I go to a meeting, I come back home, I sit on the couch, I wait for the next meeting. That's my life right now, because he's serious about trying to get his shit together and trying to kick this habit. He's like, I can't take somebody else on. And, you know, McDonough kind of spins him up in his web to go do whatever the fuck he wants. And the last thing I expected was for his dad to be able to actually get through to Frankie. But I think it makes sense. I think it really did her good to actually go to a meeting and see other people like her, including like McDonough's dad. And you can tell she really cares about McDonough. And like her father, who's also like her, is trying to beat this. I mean, I think in terms of earned, I think earned is a weird phrase because we don't get to spend a whole bunch of time with Frankie. But like the only bit of it that we see for her is that, you know, she's a prostitute and the prostitute's life is not easy in the slightest. And she's constantly getting high, but she's also constantly in these horrible, horrible situations. And you can absolutely believe there's a part of her that wants to give that up, that wants to go for a better life. And then she meets McDonough's dad, who is trying to get clean. And he convinces her to go to a meeting. And she ends up going to rehab. And she ends up kicking the habit. Like that's a solid arc. And the fact that you don't get to see a whole bunch of it because you're in McDonough's POV, it makes sense. And it definitely comes out of left field, but it feels good to me to see that happen in the peripheral, like a really unexpected ray of sunshine.
Well, taking things in the opposite direction here. Last question. Is the ending of this movie real? Or is it really the last fevered fantasy of Terrence as he's dying from a heroin overdose?
Yeah, this ending is where it all falls apart for me.
Allow me to explain.
This ending is where,
because I did read a theory, and I actually really like it, and I think it works pretty well. So the drugs that he takes from Big Fate The uncut, the pure, the very pure, the very potent stuff, basically. They said if you can overdose this very easily and die pretty easily as well. My theory, not my theory, but the theory I read, which I actually really like, is that the reason everything goes so well for Terrence after making the deal with Big Fate is because he did overdose. Think about it. Everything that happens after that goes almost perfectly for him. He gets his money back from winning the bets. He is able to plant evidence to catch Big Fate. He sobers up. He makes rank a captain. Everything is literally going perfectly for him. In a film where everything has been unraveling like crazy up to that point. Everything. So to me, it makes sense that this would all be like in his head. It's all be a fever dream because it's just this weird, unreliable narrator, this unreliable perspective of everything. And what really clinched the deal for me is at the very end. So he meets with the man he saved from the prison, and the two of them do a little drugs, and they go to the aquarium. And the reason this worked for me is because someone pointed out that in this scene, he is literally, quote unquote, sleeping with the fishes, which is, another terminology for people being dead. And putting all that together, I'm like, no, this actually lines up pretty well. It's not like 100% clear, not 100% clean, but a lot of it lines up and it works for me. I think it actually means he is dead and he is imagining every last bit of this film. And now it makes me kind of go back and look at the rest of the film and ask what of this movie was real? What actually did happen? Because can we really rely on anything that Terrence has seen or said or brought back to the audience at all? I don't know if we can.
I'm willing to extend. I'm willing to extend the suspension of disbelief to the majority of this movie. I 100% agree that after his soul is dancing, everything works out far too well, far too fast. Like to the point where I'm just like, wait, like I'm waiting for the fact that he's dreaming. I'm waiting for him to be dreaming. The only thing that keeps me from wholeheartedly buying into it is that after all this shit and he actually gets promoted to fucking captain and Frankie is pregnant and everybody is clean and they're not even drinking wine and all this, that, and the other, he's back at the hotel and he's like pulling up a line and the guy that he saved shows up. And he says, sometimes I have bad days. And the guy says, look, I'm almost off of work. I'm going to get you out of here. To me, that didn't read like I'm going to do drugs with you and we're going to hang out. To me, that read like a former addict who had gotten their life put together. They're gotten their life back together. Seeing someone in that hole and saying, hey, I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to be with you and I'm going to help you through what comes next. So when they go to the aquarium and they're just sitting there, there was a part of me that's like, he's just staying with him to keep him from doing drugs. Like, he's staying with him because he's trying to help him out. But at the same time, I'm like, why did he start doing drugs again? Because he seems to have completely kicked the habit, and Frankie's pregnant, and everybody's clean, and he just made captain, and all of these things are great. So why did he start using again? Like, yeah, the ending in and of itself did not make sense to me. And that's kind of my only problem with the movie. That the ending felt super disjointed. It would make sense if he was just dying, but at the same time, I would want that to be clear.
Absolutely.
I would want that to be clearer if that is the case.
Well, Speaking of being clear, if you have any questions for us to clear up with, you can go to Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook to reach out to us. You can also go to our email. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is, this is my lucky crack pipe. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's evacstation at gmail.com.
That lucky crack pipe is so fucking just off the wall.
Fucking ridiculous, man.
So now we get to the point of the show where we rank the film from platinum to shit and all the colors in between. This is a tough one because it has its issues, it has its problems. I don't think it's overall bad, but I do think it has some issues. And I'm trying to think. I think I know where I land on this one, Ryan, but I'm curious, where do you land?
Yeah, so I think overall this was a more enjoyable Nick Cage. I think it kind of straddles the line between fun Nick Cage and serious Nick Cage. He definitely takes the role seriously, 100%. But I feel like the writing and the direction of the movie, it kind of straddles the line between serious and ridiculous. So it's like there are parts of it that encourage me to take it seriously, and there are parts of me that encourage me to disconnect and just be like, what the fuck is he doing? That's ridiculous. Why do we have this close-up of this goddamn bearded lizard? What are we doing here? That man's soul is actually dancing. So I kind of want to go middle of the road on this one and give it a bronze. I enjoyed the movie. There were parts of it that I had to pause because I was seriously like, God, that's embarrassing, but that's also ridiculous, and I don't really know how to take it. There are some deeper things to go into, but I don't think it's as deep as his other work would suggest. So yeah, I go with the bronze.
I'll meet you on bronze, I think. I think that this film does introduce a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of really good film technique. I think that Herzog was a brilliant choice for directing the energy and manic insanity that is Nick Cage. But I think the film's structure is a little flimsy, and I think that the plotting is not all the way there. It's definitely a tighter plot than what we got with Leaving Las Vegas, but it's not cohesive in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of that comes down to the unreliable perspective we're getting, but I wish it leaned into that more to make that clearer. If it had leaned into that unreliable perspective concept, I think I could have given it a lot higher, for sure.
Me too.
With that is it for this week's Rage in the Cage. Next week, my favorite movie we're going to be covering for this season, because I've seen it before, I love it. We're going to do Face Off.
I'd like to take his face off. Damn it! You know what? Honestly, cause so throughout the course of this series, the key Nick Cage movies for me were The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, National Treasure. When I think of Nick Cage, that's what I think of. But they're all fun. They're all kind of lighthearted. They're all kind of up in the air, and it's particularly the addition, our forays into Leaving Las Vegas and Bad Lieutenant, that really get into the depth of Nick Cage's work, and how much he actually thinks about the roles that he takes and that he portrays. So even the fun shit, you can tell he actually puts a lot of thought into it. There's he actually pulls from a lot of different sources to actually put together his portrayal. And so I'm very interested to now revisit Face Off, because I love that shit. That's my childhood. But it'll be really, really interesting to see Face Off after I've seen Leaving Las Vegas, after I've seen Bad Lieutenant, after I've heard him talk at length
his acting method and
about
whatnot.
like German impressionistic notes in his acting that he wanted to explore, or operatic like facial expressions that he wanted to go with in terms of John Woo films, and like how Face Off was pretty much the brainchild of his earlier film Vampire's Kiss. Yeah, I'm very excited to go into Face Off thinking about all of that other shit. So next week's going to be a doozy, guys. I hope you're as excited as I am.
And if you want to see more Nick Cage after this, we might try to do this again next year, so please let us know what you want to see next time, and we'll make sure we get a very good list of highly requested Nick Cage films to cover for next year, because this has been a fun little side experiment, and I can't wait to get through it. And then after Nick Cage, I do believe we are hitting our Halloween season, which is going to be a great time. So tune in for those, and we'll see you guys after the credits.
Bye.